because sometimes when I press that shutter button, it doesn't do it. But it's recording, and let's get started. Finally, what's up, everyone? Oh, and forgive me if I look at my screen. It's something that I'm watching on here as I'm doing this review. But I did turn the sound down, so you ain't got to worry about hearing it. But yeah, like this has my attention as well as me just doing this. But yeah. So what's up, everyone, and welcome to the wrap-up review series, episode 20, I believe. And this is the first wrap-up review series that I'm doing for a game on the Nintendo DS, and it is a game whose prequel never got a United States release, truth be told. And it's a game that took me two playlists, not two whole playlists, but like 2.5 playlists, and a total of 54 hours. Now, mind you, I never lost one match in this game. I lost a couple, characters, like a couple of my characters died, but I didn't lose any, matches in this game. So like I didn't lose at all in the game. And it took me like a total of 54 hours to complete. And that game is Project X Zone, or as it's properly named, Project Cross Zone. Now, if you're new to the wrap-up review series, what I do is I give you the history of the game itself. Then I give you, just a little bit of the game storyline, not any major spoilers, just very minor things that you would find, in the demo of the game. And then I talk about the gameplay, and that's when I give you my likes and my dislikes, and then I rate the game. So that's basically how we're going to do this. So, what is Project X Zone? So, Project X Zone is a game that is a collaborative project between Bandai Namco, Capcom, and Sega, and it is the follow-up game to Namco Cross Capcom, which was a Japan-only release on the PlayStation 2 back in, I believe, May of 2005, which Namco and Capcom were only involved in. And so there's an 8-year gap in between Namco Cross Capcom and this game. Just to let you know. So this is the first time we have gotten a game like this in the United States, and so Namco, Capcom, and Sega really needs to be commended for their efforts in really getting a game like this to the United States, because I know myself as well as other people were, the ones that were in the know of Namco Cross Capcom, we were pretty upset that that game never got a United States release, because it looked pretty good from the videos that I watched and the gameplays that I've seen. It looked pretty damn good, and I'm kind of ashamed that the game didn't get a United States release. Hey, you notice anything different? Shut up. Anyway, had to fix my... Anyway, man, like the gameplay of Project X Zone, the best way for me to describe it is that it's like a tactical RPG. Sit up a little bit more so that the camera can get all this goodness, all this beauty, all this finesse. I'm too silly, man. Anyway, again, like the gameplay of Project X Zone, the best way for me to explain it is it's like a tactical RPG with some elements of action and fighting game in it. That really make it a unique experience. In this game, you have paired units, solo units, and support units, and that you use to defeat your enemies. Pair units are your units that consist of two characters that coordinate their attacks in order to take out the opponents. And the way that you attack with them is by pressing the A button individually or with either one direction of the D-pad. I almost forgot what this damn thing was called. But yeah, that's what you use in order to do damage. Now, the way the combat is meant to be utilized is that you're supposed to use each of the attacks once so that you can gain this bonus attack. And so when you attack, another thing to notice, note is that your enemies will enter this juggle state, and this is one of those fighting game elements that I tell you about. That they either get knocked into the air, or those attacks will do like a wall bounce, and you can perform some critical hits by timing your attacks right before they hit the ground. Now, critical attacks are imperative in order for you to be successful in this game. Critical attacks, they do double, sometimes even like triple the damage, and Using them at the right moment will really save your ass in some tight spots. If you watch my playthrough, you know this to be true. It really, really comes in handy for you to master those critical hits. And yeah. So you want to do as much damage as you can, but it's a catch to it, and I'm gonna get to that, later when I talk about my dislikes. So I want you to keep that in mind. The solo units are single character units and burps. Excuse me. But yeah, like the solo units are single character units that you team up with your pair units, and you can call them into attack at any time after the match starts and before it ends, just by pressing the L button on your Nintendo 3DS. And they can come in and they do some extra damage, of course. And the support units, they work the same way, except the support units are basically other pair units that the pair unit that you're currently controlling. When you move them close to another pair unit, they can help you, saying, like in that battle sequence. And you call them out by, saying, like pushing the R button. And like I said, the pair units work the same way as the solo units do, except all you got to do is just be nearby them when you attack in one of the opponents, and you have to hit the R button in order to call them out. Now, one of the new features that they have in this game that I don't believe was in the previous game, at least I hope it wasn't, otherwise I'll be lying. But one of the new features that they have in this game is called a cross-up. And the way you perform a cross-up is by calling out your solo units and or your support units at the proper time when your pair unit is attacking. Still gotta move my head. I'm really focused in on this video, so forgive me. But yeah. So you gotta keep in mind that when a cross-up takes effect, that a cross-up takes effect when the target is hit simultaneously with attacks from your pair unit, solo unit, again, and or your support unit. And when that happens, the target gets frozen. So you really have to time your attacks. Again, that's another one of those fighting game elements. Like you have to time your attacks in fighting games in order to get those combos off. Well, in this game, that cross-up, it's very imperative that you use it at the proper time, that you call out, or that you get familiar with the way that your solo units attack and your support units and your pair units attack, so that you can, so that those hits can come at the proper time. Because you don't want your target to be like high up in the air, and and then all of a sudden, like the attacks happen, to where all these others attacks miss. You want the cross-up to happen to where it's like mid to low level. That way all of the attacks can hit them, so that you can do maximum damage to them. Now, when you attack, or when you get attacked, you gain cross points, or XP, which is like your skill points or your mana. And you can use this for various things, such as like the character's skills, the character's responses, the multi-attacks, and the finishers. Now, one thing I need to mention is that like the maximum amount of XP that you can get, something just on your own is 100%. But there's an extra 50%. There's an extra 50% that you can get by only like using the cross-up feature, and that'll help you gain the extra 50%. So that's to be noted. But every pair unit and solo unit has their own set of skills that you can use the XP for, and it varies from increase ranges to move more spaces, heal themselves or allies. You can increase your attack and defense, your launch height for the attacks that knock the target into the air, or that cause wall bounces, or the speed of the attacks. You know, like you can move twice as fast during the battle scene. You can gain more experience to help them level up quicker. You know, something. Something. Just as wide. You know. Uh, Variety of things, etc. And the responses can be done when your character has enough XP and gets attacked by enemy units. You know, you have three options to take action against those oncoming attacks. You can either perform a counter where you go into a battle sequence and do damage, choose defense, which cuts the damage in half, or full defense where you take 0 damage. And now all of these responses cost like 20 to 60, either 20 or 60% XP. So you should make sure that you can get in as many hits as you can in order to gain as much XP as you can even after you get the KO on the monster. You know, you can still continue to hit that target. So it's important for you to continue to attack after the target is dead in order to gain as much XP as you can get. In order for you to use, you know what I'm saying, like just later on in the stage. Now, multi-attacks and finishers, can only be done when you have at least 100% XP. Multi-attacks can hit like 2 to 4 enemies at once. So, they're really good for taking out multiple targets. Especially when you make it like further into the game, like you're going to find yourself using it more and more often. Now, some characters get their multi-attacks by just leveling up, you know, something like to a certain level. Other, like 1 or 2 characters get it just by, you know, just progressing into the game, and at those certain points, that's when they get it. But that's to be noted. And you're gonna find yourself using the multi-attacks more and more often because the fights do get ridiculous. But again, that's something I'm gonna get to later. Also, the finishers are done by pressing the Y button. You know, after you have after you get 100% XP, anytime during the battle sequence, and you enter this like this cinematic scene where all of these fancy explosions and crazy attacks are going on, and it does a lot of damage. But you got to make sure that you don't waste them on like the weaker enemies. And be aware that bosses do pop up out of nowhere in this game. Again, this is something that I'm going to talk about later on, so keep that in mind. Yeah. Oh, another thing I almost forgot to mention is that in this game, you're going to go up against enemies that have this block meter, you know, something which is like a shield, and you have to break through that shield in order to do damage to that target. Now, they won't move, you know, while you're hitting the shield. They won't move, they won't budge, you know, or anything like that. But it's important to know that different attacks have different strengths, and they're graded from A to D. And so the higher the strength on the attack is, the more damage that it will do to that shield or that block meter, and thus breaking through the guard using the least attacks possible. Now, you can view that by looking in the unit screen, and it will show the strength grades of each of the pair unit's attacks. Another factor that needs to be noted is that when you break the guard, it's important for you to keep that target airborne, because sometimes when a target with a block meter lands, the meter fills back up just instantly. So, like, it just makes everything have to restart over. You know what I mean? Like, you did all that to break the guard, and then they just get it right back. So, like, what you have to do is you have to re-break the guard again. But that first time, you know what I'm saying, like, when you have to re-break the guard, you gain a random item, you know what I'm saying, to heal yourself, to restore some XP, or something like heal, like a status ailment. And one more thing you should keep your eye on is your stats. Now, there are 4 that play a role in this game's combat, You have your attack, defense, tech, and speed. Now, with the attack and defense, that's self-explanatory. I don't need to go into deep detail about that. But the tech and speed are the two that you need to be aware of, and I'm saying, like, just for uh, uh, strategical purposes. There's some noise in the background that kind of distracted me a little bit. But yeah, like the tech is basically used to cause status elements on your target, like from your regular attacks. Now the status elements that they have in the game are down, stunned, or poison. Now when any character, ally, or foe has a status element on them, like with the exception of poison, I believe, then that target won't be able to do a a um a response, which is important to note considering that I'm diving into my dislikes about this game. But first, we're going to talk about the likes. This game is not your typical RPG. It's a tactical RPG with real-time fighting aspects that mimic, action and fighting games genres, and that is a rare sight in RPGs. So that needs to be commended, and that needs to be, said. The game often invokes a feeling of nostalgia, with the characters, the music, the stages, and also with the characters' attacks that they placed in this game. It really does take you back to those games where those characters come from, and it's a good warm feeling that just really just takes you back. You know what I mean? And in this game, the stage designs are really well done. I have to give them props on the stage designs. Also to note that there's like item boxes and things like that have like some rare items that you can only get from those item boxes, briefcases or whatever like that, but they all fall into the same category of like chests. But yeah, it's important for you to get all those so that you can get those items to either raise your pair units attack, defense, or like speed or tech. Also, those items can help you nullify any type of ailment, so that your character can't be stunned, downed, or poisoned, or what have you. So like those things are everywhere. There are also there are also some breakable objects in the game that will give you items sometimes, not all the time, but it's like very rare. But you want to make sure that you break every object that is breakable in the game. I forgot to mention that. Just early in the video, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, and again, like not to get sidetracked, but the way that they made the characters stages in this game, well, not character stages, but like just with the stages in general, they did a good job with them, and it really needs to be commended because they took some of the stages from games like Darkstalkers, some like from games like Darkstalkers, Tales of Vesperia. I almost forgot about that game. Tales of Vesperia, Darkstalkers, Ghouls and Goblins. That was the game I was thinking about. Something like just a variety of stages that they took, ideas from, and they just remade them in order to fit this RPG like setting. And they need to be commended for that because they did do a good job. Like the backgrounds on them are amazing, and yeah, like they really did good. So thumbs up on that. 2 thumbs up. And the music that they made for this game, Salamander Factory, you guys really need to be applauded for the original music that you guys composed. I mean, there's music from the other games that the characters come from, like Tekken, from games like Dot Devil May Cry, etc. But there's the original music that they made only for this game, and it was made by this by these composers called the Salamander Factory, and they did an amazing job with that. You know, the music is well orchestrated. My only complaint is that you can't really enjoy the music in its entirety because, you know, it's on the Nintendo DS, you know what I mean? And these speakers are so small that you can't really hear, you know, how grand the music is, but you can hear it well enough to know that it's some freaking amazing music. So yeah, like they need to be, you know, they deserve major props for that. So, but this game does not go without its faults. And where do I start? If you paid attention to my, is it recording? Okay, make sure. Because again, I gotta make sure, because sometimes this thing messes up. It messes up sometimes. But yeah. First off, I guess I can mention this, because this needs to be, this is one of the things that needs to be brought up. Now, excuse my vulgarity. Turn this around. What the fuck is the zone of character? In this game, there's something called the ZOC, or the zone of character. And basically, it's just where that character is standing. Now, there's some abilities that some para units and some solo units have that, you know, that can nullify the zone of character to where basically, you know what I'm saying, to where like you're able to walk through that enemy unit to an unoccupied area, or at least that's how they said that it should work, but it doesn't work like that. And I used it a few times during the playthrough, like, you know, those abilities like a couple times during my playthrough, and nothing changed, so they got it wrong. Like, it doesn't work at all, and it's not even needed to play the game in the least, so it really just questions why the hell is it even in the game. And those who played it or they watched my playthrough, you can pretty much see what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's just not needed in the game, so I don't even know why it was in there, that feature, or that, you know what I'm saying, I don't even know why they put that in there, but whatever, man. Also, none of your characters have the ability of flight. And now, far be it from me to be one, you know, that talks about video games logic. But you can't help but scratch your head when the enemies have flight capabilities, and you have stages in the game that can only be accessible by flight, you know, and the characters in the game have been known to have these flight abilities, or even like some super jump abilities in their, you know, games that they come from, like Morrigan, X and Zero, Dante, Dimitri. You know, this guy can turn into bats. How come you didn't give him flight capabilities? I don't even understand. Like, he even does it several times during his normal attacks. It's kind of mind-blowing. It's stupid. So they gave the monsters kind of like an advantage with that flight. And one of the times I was worried, I believe I was under the Fuji Sakura tree at one point in the game, and it was this platform that, again, can only be accessed by flight. Forgive that background noise, I got people over here. But yeah, it's areas that on like a lot of the stages in this game that can only be accessed by flight. And it was times where the enemy units were attacking me from that platform. I couldn't get up there. I didn't have any abilities. None of my characters had the abilities to get up there. So it was really just like an unfair advantage. And when you look at the characters in the games that they come from, they've been known to have flight or super jump abilities, but they didn't give it to them in this game. So it's kind of like you made stages where that can only be accessed by flight. You gave the enemies flight capabilities, but you didn't give those same capabilities to the characters that could have had them in the game. So that's kind of mind-blowing to me. And again, it's a head scratcher. So now remember when I talked about the XP, by you attacking, or like by you getting attacked, you gain XP. Well, the same rule applies to the enemy monsters, and when you attack them, they gain XP as well. And when they have enough, they do their finisher that causes like 50% to 90% damage. That's going to be... Now, I want you to keep that in mind, because I'm going to say something else that's going to blow your mind. I mean, it damn near wipes your health bar clean. Now, here's the funny part. That catch that I was speaking on earlier, the damage that you do to those monsters, the more XP, the more damage that you do to them, the more XP that they gain. And it could have been a moment where they didn't have enough XP in order to do those finishers, but after your attacks, they just may have enough in order for you to, in order for them to do those powerful finishers. And so, like, it's pretty much like a trap. I mean, like, they have other ways that they will gain XP, but it's pretty much like a trap, because it's either like you can either like attack them and gain, and like just let them gain XP, so that you can do like just as much damage as you can do to them in order to get them off the just in order to beat them as soon as possible. Or you can not do as much and they're still going to do it. So it's like, do I give them more XP or do I not give them more XP? You know what I mean? So it's really like a catch-22, but since they're going to do it anyway, just go ahead and just wail on them. But still, it's like, for them to get that much from you attacking them, and them doing, like them having supers that, and them having finishers that do like 50% to 90% damage to your health bar, it's just like, come on, dude. Like, really. And like I said, like, they're going to do it anyway. And even with my health being as high as it was, they still did like 70% to 90% damage. And it, like, it's a leveling up system in this game, but there's no way for you to like, there's no way for you to like grind in order to get your levels up or things like that. Like, you're dependent on these items that help to boost your stats and your health, really. And like, they give you just enough in order for you to survive, and then you're just using up all your items, and then like your items, like, they deplete so fast, and you don't have enough XP in order to use them for like the healing abilities that some of the para units have. And it's just like this big clusterfuck of what the fuck, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't damage them enough, because then they're going to gain XP, but if I don't damage them, then they, like, these bosses are still going to gain some XP in some way. So it's really just like, you just gotta attack them, but it's really just like a catch-22. So that part is confusing to me. I'm saying, like, how they had that program. Another thing that this game suffers from is repetitive boss battles, and too many back-to-back boss battles. And this is one of the things that I complained about frequently throughout the entire playthrough. If you watch my playthrough of this game, it's like, the bosses that you beat, they end up coming back, and they do it so much to the point where it just loses its value over time. Case in point, something like this may not be the best example, but it is a good example overall. In the Mega Man games, now, me personally, like, one of the battles that I look forward to is like towards the end, where there's this room, and it's pretty much, something just like a boss rush, to where like, you take on all the bosses that you had to fight up until that point, just one final time. And it's pretty much like that constantly in this game. Like, it's just back-to-back boss battles and bosses popping up out of nowhere. Bosses that you just beat, they pop up out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh, and this isn't any more clear than like the final battle. If you go back to that last video, right before I take on the final boss, it's a boss that I beat like several times throughout that game. And these bosses, they appear like 5, 6, 7 times in this game back to back, and it's just like, I just beat this thing. And in that last boss battle, I just beat that boss, and the boss brought it back, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. So this game does have its share of bullshit moments. One last thing is that this game does try to challenge you, and I do need to give it props on that. This game does try to challenge you. As I mentioned before, you know, you can attach solo units to pair units, and you have to, you know, find the proper way to attack so that you can get a cross up. Now, you may have worked something out to where, you know, you see it, to where you said, okay, this pair unit goes great with this solo unit, and I can get that cross up a lot easier with these two. But the game breaks up the teams often. You know, something happens to where they either get sent to dimensional rifts, you know, to like other dimensions, or like the team, you know what I'm saying, like part ways, or they go like some separate ways, or like something happens to where like the team splits up. And with the pair units and the solo units that they give you for that stage, it may not be what you're used to, so you have to find new combinations. But there's this training session in the game's intermissions, you know, that you have to, you know, use in between chapters, that you can, you know what I'm saying, like practice to see, you know what I'm saying, like what the best moves are for you to use with the solo unit in order for you to get the cross up at the proper time. But it still happens more often than it should, because it was times in this game where I just reformed the teams, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could have just reformed the teams, and then the game and the storyline, like, they end up just breaking up the teams again. So it just defeats the purpose of them even doing that. And another thing was the rescue missions. I don't think I talked about the rescue missions. At points in this game, like, you have to rescue allies. And the way you do it is that you walk up next to them and you press the Y button in order to rescue them. But it's not even an important part of the game, like the way that it should be used. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really like forgetful, and they only do it like 4 times in the entire game. So it doesn't really come in handy in the game storyline like the way I feel it should. You know, these rescue missions, I feel, in my opinion, should be used in order for you to gain new allies, or for you to like rescue captured allies or things like that. And the way they do it is just like whatever at the end of the day, because it's very forgettable. Like, they don't make it memorable or anything like that. It really doesn't play any major role in the game like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just there. It's, at times, it really does feel like misplaced, and they don't really utilize it to its full potential. You know what I mean? So that was just some of the things that I didn't like about the game. But yeah, man, that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this game as much as I did. I mean, I liked it. I put this game damn near in the same category as like Shining Force, and I've gone on record to say that that was one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and it still is to this day. You know, and overall, you know what I'm saying, like, that game was just one of my favorite games of all time. And I put this game up there with that, in all honesty. Even with all its flaws, it's still a unique experience. It's still an amazing game. You don't see games like this in the United States often. And I'm glad I started doing Nintendo 3DS playthroughs, because this is one of those rare gems. With the exception of its prequel, you can only get this in, or like on the Nintendo 3DS. So again, props to Capcom, Namco, and Sega for coming together to make a collaborative project like this. And again, for making it come to the United States, because this game came out back in like October of 2012 in Japan, and we didn't get this game till this year, you know what I'm saying, like last month. So that's it, man. So just factoring in everything, how do I rate this game? I would honestly give this game like an 8.7 out of 10. What, you know what I'm saying? and I don't even use like the point system like that in my, you know, videos, but I feel like this game deserves like an 8.7 out of 10. I've seen some people rate this game like 9 out of 10 or like 10 out of 10. It's an 8 or an 8.7 out of 10, you know, like just somewhere in between there. It's not, you know, perfect. It does have its flaws, and it does suffer from some repetition. It exhausts you, it wears you out at times when it's really not needed, but the game is really good overall. And they did a good job with it, with the music, with the stages, with the characters, with the solo units, the pair units, etc., etc. And they need to be commended for this. They really do. So 8.7 out of 10, that's how I rate this game. If you have a Nintendo DS, I do say get it. If you're into RPGs, this is a must buy. If you have a Nintendo DS and you're looking for like a very unique experience, this game is it, in my opinion. You know, you don't see RPGs like this every day in the United States again. But you know, like this game is at least, you know, something like worth a rent. You know what I mean? Even if you're not into even if you're not into RPGs, I still say, you know what I'm saying, like just give it a rent and just try it out and just see how it is. You know what I mean? Because it is a unique experience, and for the people that have played it, they can agree with me. It's a nice game. It's a good game, and it does have its flaws, but overall it's still an amazing piece of work, and I do commend them on that. So hope you guys, I know this video is kind of lengthy, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I try to touch all bases in my reviews, and that tends to them to be longer than I want them to be, but at least you get well informed for the most part of like everything the game has to offer. So with that being said, I'm gonna get up on out of here. I'm missing SummerSlam. But yeah, so until then, peace, and see you guys for the next wrap-up review. Take care.